Hey everybody, Gene here. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, where every single week we answer the most common and uncommon questions about tapping and EFT so you can eliminate self-sabotage and take the actions that you want. One more reminder at the end of this month, at the beginning of next month, that is August and September of 2020, I am offering the Mastering the Art of Delivery class. In the class, you're going to go from being able to effectively use EFT in a straightforward way to being able to find root causes faster, clear them quicker, and make your results last longer. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how I approach tapping with my clients, the processes that I use, most importantly, the vocabulary I'm listening to when my clients are talking, so it's easier to unpack what the actual issue is. And these are tools that work not only when we're working with someone else, but when we're tapping on our own. I use these tapping tools every single day when I'm tapping on my issues because I spend a little time every morning doing some tapping. For more information about the class, all you need to do is go to masteringtheartofdelivery.com. That's masteringtheartofdelivery.com. There's a link in the show notes. And if you use the discount code podcast, you will get 50% off of the class. I'm offering the class 4 times. Each of the classes actually starts at a different time to accommodate wherever you live in the world. So you're going to be able to find a weekend where you get to do it during daylight hours. Masteringtheartofdelivery.com. This is Gene Montrestelli. Welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast, recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 474. It originally aired August 12th, 2020. Hi everyone, I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you're getting a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Today we're going to talk about and tap about those times in which you know you should be tapping and for some reason you just don't reach for that particular tool. Before we jump in, just a quick reminder, we have a free 10-part guide on how you can eliminate self-sabotage. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com, click on the big blue button, and we will get you that guide absolutely free. If you happen to be listening to this right now in the website, up at the top of that right-hand corner, click on that blue button, and you will find your way to be able to get that guide absolutely free. One of my favorite questions to ask new people who are subscribing to my mailing list is, I like to ask them, what is the biggest struggle they have when it comes to tapping? And I ask this question primarily because I like to get the feel for people who are just being introduced to my material. What is the thing that is most important to them? And so they're asking a question for a resource that I've already created instead of having them have to sift through the now 1,000 free resources that are on the website. I know where stuff is, and I'll send them a link or two saying, hey, I know you're struggling with this. Here's some resources that you can work on that right now. The single most common response I get to that kind of shows up in 2 flavors. One flavor is, I wish I tapped more and I just don't do it. The other is, in the moment of distress, I forget to tap, and therefore I'm not using the tool to its fullest potential. And so basically it's, I want to tap more and I'm not. And there are 2 reasons why we do not tap when we would like to be tapping. The first is, building a habit is something that is difficult. Like, we don't just magically decide I'm going to do something and it happens. If that were the case every single year, our New Year's resolutions would be things that completely transformed our lives, and by the middle of February, we'd all be a better human being. And we know that that is not the way that simply declaring something like a resolution happens. And so we have to build habits and we have to build muscles where we reach for those things. In podcast 201, if you go to tappingpodcast.com and go down to episode 201, you will hear me explain, and I actually did it for New Year's one year, how to make tapping a routine. So that's the first reason why we get in the way. The second reason why we don't reach for tapping is because there is a part of our system that doesn't actually want us to change. And this resistance to change isn't there because it wants us to stay in pain, and it doesn't want us to feel like we're being punished and we have to feel this thing because we're doing something wrong, but it is because the subconscious mind is misperceiving what is going on when we are tapping and the transformation that is happening. And I'll give you an example. So I have a friend of mine who has OCD. And because of the OCD, if he is touched in a particular physical way, he has to do a number of movements to feel better that include moving his arms and spinning around. And it's just kind of his little tool. And it is someone, and he's very good-natured about it. This isn't something that controls his life. It's just something that happens. And he is someone I've tapped with before. There's an event that we usually perform at and speak at together regularly, about once a year. And so he was very familiar with tapping. He was even familiar with tapping with me. And so after he went through that, I was unaware that this was part of his day. He did a really good job of masking it after knowing it for many years. I said, we could tap and you wouldn't have to do that anymore. And immediately he said, no. Because for him, when he did the movements, the consequence of doing the movements was releasing a pressure release valve. Someone had touched him. It built up some emotional pressure inside of him. And by doing the particular movements, it was releasing the pressure. And so when I offered to him tapping, what I was offering was, hey, maybe tapping is going to reduce the pressure inside of you when you get touched in that way, so you don't have to do the pressure release valve as much. What he heard was I was going to take away his pressure release valve. That the pressure would build up, but because of the tapping, we'd gotten rid of the little movement, the little dance, therefore he was going to be stuck in that pain. And so for him, as annoying as doing the physical movements to release the pressure was, it was a tool that was useful. And he was afraid to let go of that useful tool. And that is the way our subconscious mind deals with the things that we are doing that we'd like to tap and change. The subconscious mind perceives everything that we are doing, the patterns that we have, the information we contain, the routines that we use, the skills that we reach for. It recognizes all of those things as tools that serve a function. And I always am a little leery about calling them functional because oftentimes they are things that are not healthy. And oftentimes we equate functional with healthy. So for example, if I'm in a situation where at the end of the workday, I feel really angry or really sad every single day, and the way that I choose to respond to that is by drinking a lot of bourbon, that is a functional choice. It is serving the function of numbing the pain and probably dropping me into a sleep on the couch so I don't have to think about stuff depending on how much I drink. So it is serving a function. It's not healthy. It's not a good long-term solution, but it is serving a function. And so the emotions that you feel and the resistances that you have and the tools that you reach for, like binge eating or drinking too much or watching a bunch of crap TV or whatever that thing is that is medicating, it is serving a purpose. And so our subconscious mind can perceive that when we spend time tapping, what we're doing is the exact same thing my friend thought was happening. The subconscious mind thinks we're going to keep the discomfort and we're going to take the tool away. And if that's actually what was going on, that makes a great deal of sense. Why would we want to get rid of a tool that is serving some function? It might not be the perfect response, but it is a response, so we're not staying stuck in that sort of pain. And so for me, we can step into this and tap in such a way that we're able to let go of the tool. And that is a vocabulary that I find really important and strategic. It is a tool. And by thinking about it as a tool, it's not an action that I take, it's not who I am, but it's something that I can pick up or down. And so I can decide to pick up a tool to make myself feel better, or I can put the tool down and I can reach for a different tool. And so that is the reason why this particular approach is another one of, these healing fundamentals that we've been covering on the podcast, is because when we recognize this, it transforms the way that we tap. Because before we start tapping on the issue, we tap around the reason why the issue exists. And by doing that, changing the issue becomes a much easier thing to do. So the tapping we're about to do is about giving ourselves permission to let go of a tool which our system thinks is functional, knowing that we're reaching for a better tool which will help us to be safe and healthy. And one of the things that is really important to notice when we do this tapping is I'm going to talk about picking the tool back up, because it's easier for us to lay something down, consciously or subconsciously, if we know we're not getting rid of it forever. So do this for me. Tap on the side of the hand, take a nice big deep breath. And just think about one of those issues that you'd like to tap for more, that you'd like to change, but for some reason, it's just not happening. And just move from tapping point to tapping point, repeating after me. I recognize the fact part of my system wants me to be healthy, and it wants me to be safe. And the way that it believes that I'm going to be safe is by using the tools that I'm currently using. Is by navigating my day in the way that I always have. Even though the tools I'm using aren't perfect, they are tools that are working in a functional way. And because they are working in a functional way, my system doesn't want to let them go. My system doesn't want me to put them down. And so that is the reason why I don't tap as much as I would like to. I don't tap in a regular way because my system is worried that if I tap on this issue, I'm going to lose access to my tool. And if I lose access to the tool, then I'm going to be stuck in a situation where I've changed the habit, but I'm still in pain. I recognize the fact that there are healthier tools. I recognize the fact that there are better ways to approach this. And I give myself permission to know that I'm just putting down this current tool. At some point in the future, if I think that tool is useful again, I'm allowed to pick it up. I'm allowed to use it again. It is a tool that might have served me in the past. It is a tool that might have been the best tool I had access to at that point in my life. And I now recognize in this moment, it's not the best tool for me. And so I give myself permission to put the tool down. And when I do this, it will make it easier for me. It will make it healthier for me. And I give myself permission to know at any point in the future, if I want to pick the tool back up, I can. I doubt that's what I'm going to want to do. But I'm allowed to pick it up later if I want. It is safe for me to tap on this issue. it is safe for me to release this process, knowing that as I tap, I am choosing a healthier tool for me. My subconscious mind wants me to be healthy. My conscious mind wants me to be healthy. And this is an opportunity for every part of my system to get on the same page. Nice deep breath. So you can see it's pretty straightforward. We're just naming what is going on. We're seeing the action in the past as something that the body's trying to do to keep us healthy. Even though we recognize consciously it might not be the healthiest choice, it might actually be a really unhealthy choice. But by looking at it this way, it gives us the opportunity to unpack it and to transform it. Again, this is one of the healing fundamentals. If you go into the show notes, you'll see that the 9 healing fundamentals, as we're doling them out over the course of a number of podcasts, are really great ways for you to approach your tapping practice. If you haven't done so already, I'd really encourage you to check out my Mastering the Art of Delivery class, masteringtheartofdelivery.com, as a way of just diving into these sorts of concepts in a much deeper way. If you have a question or a comment, please let me know. I can always be reached Gene, Gene, at Tapping Q&A. If you have a recommendation for something that we should tap on or someone I should interview, I love getting recommendations from you. Some of the best recommendations have come, or some of the best podcasts have become because of recommendations from people like you. Subscribe to the podcast. Remember, in podcasting parlance, subscribe is always free. You can find the podcast in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcast, Pandora, Spotify. Basically, anywhere you find audio, you can find it. To search Tapping Q&A. And the reason you want to subscribe is so that when a new episode comes out, you don't miss it. Just click the follow or subscribe or whatever the button is in whatever ecosystem you are listening to it. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrestelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrestelli Tapping Q&A. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrestelli and Tapping Q&A.